Hello, people. Good afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to another Sister for Sister story time session. Today I'm going to be reading about the Duat, or the Egyptian underworld, or the Christian hell. The Duat, Duat, or Doaht, also appearing as Tuat or Akert, Aminthes, Amenti, or Neter Kertet, is the underworld in ancient Egyptian mythology. It has been represented in hieroglyphs as a star in circle. The god Osiris was believed to be the lord of the underworld. He was the first mummy as depicted in the Osiris myth, and he personified rebirth and life after death. The underworld was also the residence of various other gods along with Osiris. The geography of the Duat is similar in outline to the world the Egyptians knew. There are realistic features like rivers, islands, fields, lakes, mounds, and caverns, but there were also fantastic lakes of fire, walls of iron, and trees of turquoise. In the Book of Two Ways, a coffin text, there is even a map like image of the Duat. Resident souls, gods, and demons. The Duat was also a residence for various gods, including Osiris, Anubis, Thoth, Horus, Hathor, and Maat, who all appear to the dead soul as it makes its way toward judgment. In spite of the many demon like inhabitants of the Duat, it is not equivalent to the conceptions of hell in the Abrahamic religions, in which souls are condemned with fiery torments. The absolute punishment for the wicked in ancient Egyptian thought, the denial of an afterlife to the deceased, ceasing to exist in the intellectual form, or Ak. The grotesque spirits of the underworld were not evil, but rather acted as directed by the gods to provide the various ordeals that the deceased had to face. The underworld route of the sun. The Duat was the region through which the sun god Ra traveled from east to west each night, and it was where he battled Apep, who embodied the primordial chaos which the sun had to defeat in order to rise each morning and bring order back to the earth. It was also the place where people's souls went after death for judgment, though that was not the full extent of the afterlife. Burial chambers formed touching points between the mundane world and the Duat. As such, the west bank of the Nile was associated with the dead, and funeral barges would mimic the sun god Ra's journey through the sky during the day. The Ak, or the conscious part of the soul, could use tombs to travel back and forth from the Duat. Each night, the sun god Ra traveled through the Duat, bringing revivification to the dead, or reviving the dead as their main benefit. When in the underworld, he was in his ram headed form. Ra traveled under the world upon his Atet barge from west to east. On the course of the underground journey, he was transformed from his aged Atum, or Atom, form into his young Kepri form, the new dawning sun. The role of the dead king, worshipped as a god, was also central to the mythology surrounding the concept of Duat, often depicted as being identical with Ra. Along with the sun god, the dead king traveled through the Duat, the kingdom of Osiris, using the special knowledge he was supposed to possess, which was recorded in the coffin text that served as a guide to the hereafter, not just for the king, but for all deceased. According to the Amduat, the underworld consists of 12 regions, signifying the 12 hours of the sun god's journey through it, battling Apep in order to bring order back to the earth in the morning. As his rays illuminated the Duat during the journey, they revived the dead who occupied the underworld and let them enjoy life after death during that hour of the night when they were in the presence of the sun god, after which they resumed their sleep, waiting for the god's return the following night. Places or place of the dead. The rest of the dead journeyed through the various parts of the Duat to be judged, but not to be unified with the sun, not to be unified with the sun god like the dead king. If the deceased was successfully able to pass various demons and challenges, then he or she would reach the judgment of the dead. In this ritual, the deceased's first task was to correctly address each of the 42 assessors of Mayat by name while reciting the sins they did not commit during their lifetime. After confirming that they were sinless, the heart of the deceased was weighed by Anubis against the feather of Mayat, which represents truth and justice. Any heart that is heavier than the feather failed the test and was rejected and eaten by Amit, the devourer of souls, as these people were denied existence after death in the Duat. The souls that were lighter than the feather would pass this most important test and would be allowed to travel toward Aru, the field of rushes or field of reeds in the Bible, an ideal version of the world they knew of in which they would plow, sow, and harvest abundant crops. Sources. What is known of the Duat derives principally from funerary texts such as the Book of Gates, the Book of Caverns, the Coffin Text, the Amduat, and the Book of the Dead. Each of these documents fulfilled a different purpose and give a different conception of the Duat, and different texts could be inconsistent with one another. Surviving texts differ in age and origin, and there likely was never a single uniform conception of the Duat, as is the case of many theological concepts in Egypt. The Book of the Dead and Coffin Text were prepared as guidebooks through the Duat's dangerous landscape and to a life as an op for people who had recently died. Emphasized in some of these texts are mounds and caverns inhabited by gods, demons, or supernatural animals, which threatened the deceased along their journey. The purpose of the books is not to lay out a geography, but to describe a succession of rites of passage which the dead would have to pass to reach eternal life. In popular culture, the Duat appears as a major location in Rick Riordan's The Kane Chronicles series. The Duat reveals in The Crown of Ptolemy to have connections to the Mist from Riordan's Camp Half Blood Chronicles series. The Duat appears as a secret level in the video game Spelunky 2. In Assassin's Creed Origins, the Duat is an important aspect of the game, with the main character Bayek entering it multiple times. The Duat makes an appearance in the episode Asylum of the Disney Plus series Moon Knight of 2022 as the place where Mark Spector and his alter Stephen Grant are being guided by the Egyptian goddess Teleret in the afterlife after being killed by Arthur Harrow. In the film series Night at the Museum, a group of underworld warrior deities appear in Night at the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian when Kamun Ra uses the combination to open the gate to the underworld and summon an army of Horus warriors. The warriors appear from the underworld carrying spears ready to attack and join Kamun Ra's fight to take over the world. And that is the end of this article for the Duat. I'm going to start a new video on the Lake of Fire. So stay tuned. I have to get rid of all these readings or I'm going to lose my brain. Okay, guys, be right back. And shalom, shalom, my people. Love you guys. Be right back.